So we're 4 races into the season and the numbers are seriously stacking up. There's been 239 pit stops.
Look at that, he's in the wrong pit. He stopped in the wrong box.
Are you keeping up? Because not everybody is.
How many stops are there? 5? 4?
296 overtakes.
Mark Webber, after a stunning performance, is third.
126 in the last race alone.
Fantastic, that is brilliant.
Still with me? We've not even had a wet race.
Whoa!
Oh, they touched.
Matching paddle cycles, matching paddle latch.
For all the confusion, one thing is abundantly clear. The world champion is in the form of his life.
Vettel takes the Grand Prix victory. Stunning performance.
That boy's going to take some catching. The season's far from over though, and despite all the chaos, you've the best seat in the house to keep on top of it all. And if Formula One can give these people something to shout about here, then surely it can do it anywhere. Good afternoon and welcome to qualifying for the 2011 Spanish Grand Prix, live here from the Circuit de Catalunya. Now, traditionally, the fans have turned up here just to stand and stare inside one garage and one garage only. You can see them doing it now, the garage of their local hero, Fernando Alonso. They don't really turn up here expecting exciting, unpredictable racing, but who knows, perhaps this year might be different to every other year, particularly with the season we've seen so far, and David Coulthard and Eddie Jordan have certainly enjoyed it. So come on then, Eddie, right here, in 2008, during the Grand Prix, we had 2 overtakes. Surely this is the litmus test for the new regulations, isn't it?
Well, it is the litmus test, and most people, dare I say, got a little bit bored unless they were complete racing head cases. But now it's different. There's so many overtakes. I went away from the last race in Istanbul absolutely exhausted. I found it really difficult to keep up with all the moves. There were just so many. It was amazing.
And talking of racing head cases, David was racing in that race in 2008.
He was one of them.
He was one of them, and he still is one of them. Just explain, though, why it is difficult here, because you've got a long straight, you've got some slow corners and some fast corners, some undulation. It should be perfect.
Well, yeah, you do have all of that mix, but it's the profile of the corners that makes it very difficult for the drivers to follow out onto the start-finish straight. There's a reasonable corner through turn 16, so you lose aero performance. And, you know, these cars, it's a bit like an aircraft going through turbulence. It moves around and it loses performance. And that's why, historically, Grand Prix cars have always been really efficient when they run in clean air, but really inefficient when you try and follow another car.
How frustrating was it here as a driver?
Well, if you were leading, it was wonderful because you knew there was no chance of someone overtaking you. But if you were obviously trying to make the pass, in those days it was all about trying to, you know, use strategy, use the pit stops to get in front. Today, in this modern Formula One, you've got DRS, you've got KERS, you've got all of the ability to pass on track, and that's why we're seeing a new Formula One in 2011.
I may add to that because, yes, the racing has become a focal point because of the passing, but I hope it doesn't materialise, but we may lose some of the excitement in the qualifying because it no longer is vital to be on the front row of the grid.
OK, well, we'll discuss that throughout the build-up. Qualifying coming your way in less than an hour's time. But as far as saying there's more overtaking in Formula One is concerned, well, it's music to the ears of all the people chasing that man at the front, Sebastian Vettel. He's 34 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Believe it or not, 52 points ahead of home hero Fernando Alonso. But there are 25 points for a win these days in Formula One. It's looking really good, though, for Red Bull in the Constructors' battle. 122 points ahead of Mercedes, 83 ahead of Ferrari, 43 ahead of their nearest rivals, McLaren. So, we arrived here just a couple of years ago with Jenson Button having won 3 of the first 4 races. He was unstoppable, he was uncatchable, he was winning all the time. Does that remind us of anyone, I wonder?
Rosberg's flying, already taking second place. Not a great start from McLaren. Webber's defending against Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton has the line, but he's gone wide. Now he's side by side with Button, and Button is through and will have a better turn in. What can Mark Webber do? Rosberg defends the inside, which is the only sensible thing to do. He's clean past. And this is Hamilton and getting the job done down at turn 12. Where's Button? Will he come back? Now he has to defend down the pit straight. Hamilton's got a little bit out of shape in the middle of the corner, and that puts Button clean up the inside again. So Lewis a bit eager on the throttle. And now he's got the position back down into turn 1. Jensen's got himself all lined up for a wide turn in, but he goes round the outside instead.
Fantastic. I've never seen someone go round the outside in that corner.
The DRS and everything working beautifully down that straight, and Alonso takes second place. Long stop right front, problem with the nut. They had to hold him again for the Ferrari coming in. Oh dear. That's a very resigned Jensen Button there, because Lewis has the better strategy. And here we go, this is Mark Webber down into 12. Alonso's covered the inside. Webber's got to try and just sweep all the way around the outside. And they're going to touch wheel, but Webber's got the turn-in point to 13. Now he's just got to hold him tight, park it on the apex, accelerate hard, and that is the way to do it. Brilliant driving. Vettel takes the Grand Prix victory.
Woo-hoo! Yes! That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
There it is, the famous single finger celebration, a celebration that we've seen not just after the race there, but actually every single Saturday in Formula One so far in 2011. And you can see the crews working around Sebastian Vettel's car, gearing up for today's qualifying session. And it's always a real treat to stand this close to the car that is currently the fastest machine in Formula One at the moment. But it wasn't a trouble-free morning for Sebastian Vettel, just 6 laps in the final free practice session. But then he came out, did one hot lap, and beat his teammates, which is kind of the story of the season so far. And we'll speak to Christian Horner very soon about how this team will cope this weekend. But let's talk about this weekend and this circuit in particular, Eddie. The fans, they just love coming here, don't they? It's a special place for them.
It is absolutely a special place, and it's no secret that it had its growing pains. Ironically, Jake, I must tell you, Michael Schumacher started in 91, Jordan, in fact, started in 91, and so did this circuit. We've all had our ups and downs, but we're still here to live to tell the tale.
And some are looking younger than others.
Of course.
Of course they are. Well, let's have a quick look at the calendar and how it's shaping up this year. The story actually unfolding this weekend is that perhaps Bahrain will replace the inaugural Indian Grand Prix on the 30th of October, and India will then move to the 4th of December. That's what's being discussed by the powers that be in Formula One at the moment. But you can see still a long way to go this season. But despite there being plenty of races to go, David, an important stat about this place, 17 of the last 20 Grand Prix here, the winner has gone on to win the Constructors' Championship.
Well, yeah, statistics, very useful to gauge the past. But of course, there's a lot of Grand Prix racing to go before we'll be able to declare who that winner is. I think a much more interesting statistic is the fact that typically we've not seen anyone win this race in the last 10 years unless they've qualified in the front row. Will that be different today? Eddie mentioned it a few moments ago. You know, it's all going to be about tyres during the race. So it'll be interesting to see how this qualifying session unfolds.
OK, that's the end of our stat off for now. Let's talk about Nick Heidfeld, who was a man who joined Renault at the start of this season, desperately hoping that they could produce a car capable of pole positions. A good start, 2 podiums in the first 2 races. Today, this.
Fire. Okay, Nick, understood. Go quickly.
Well, the State the Obvious award goes to the Renault team for today, telling Nick to get out of the car quickly. These guys have to be out of the car within 5 seconds. You can see Nick did that there. A real blow for this team, though, because they were looking to refine some form after Turkey, weren't they?
Well, it is, but this has happened during practice. It could have been a lot worse, of course, if that was qualifying or the race. It remains to be seen just whether they managed to fix the car in time to get out to qualifying. He successfully managed to get out of the car. There's a regulation that says you have to get out within 5 seconds, so I think we reckon it was slightly more than that, but nonetheless, he got out, no damage done to the driver.
Sure, Nick Heidfeld was saying his big hope was that the chassis wasn't damaged and that he will be able to take part in qualifying, which will be happening in about 45 minutes' time. The question is, will the car be ready? Let's go live to Ted Kravitz. Ted, what can you tell us?
I'm not sure it will be ready, Jake. It was caused by a crack in the exhaust, which set fire to some of the resins and glues around the back of the car in that area. But if you have a look at the car right now, they've changed the engine, so that's a new engine in there, and they're putting a new gearbox in there as well. But still working on it, and it's quite a big job, so it really is going to be touch and go as to whether they make it into qualifying 1.
It's a bit surprising that would be resins that were going on fire. I've never seen that much resin create that much flame.
No, indeed.
Do we think they're sort of deflecting from what the real problem was?
Well, I mean, all they told us, David, is that it was the hole in the exhaust which didn't catch fire to any oil or fuel. So the logical conclusion is that it just set fire to some of the bodywork. But as you know, in that area, the bodywork is designed not just to catch fire in such a dramatic way like that. So I guess more forensic examination of the charred remains might reveal that maybe there was a cracked oil line in there somewhere, but that's not what we're being told by Renault at the moment.
OK, Ted, thank you very much. We'll follow that story nice and closely. So, Renault working hard to try and make sure they get into qualifying. Sebastian Vettel working hard to try and pop Fernando Alonso's bubble this weekend. Adrian Sutil working hard just to try and concentrate on the racing at the moment. Here's Ted with all the latest F1 news.
Adrian Sutil is set to face criminal charges after an incident in a nightclub the evening of the Chinese Grand Prix. The co-owner of the Renault team, Eric Lux, seen here on the right, plans to file a criminal complaint against Sutil for physical assault and grievous bodily harm. The Force India driver has admitted to unintentionally injuring Lux and has apologised to him. Lewis Hamilton was in the club that night, but isn't believed to have been involved. You can deal with all of this within your head, or you can just put it to the side of your head?
I can deal with it.
Red Bull, McLaren and the other top teams will be slowed down in qualifying trim soon. The FIA are to restrict the teams using engine maps that keep exhaust gas going through the diffuser even when the driver is off the throttle, adding downforce. The new rule will come into effect in a couple of races' time after the Williams team prompted the FIA's Charlie Whiting to act.
I was a bit surprised when I saw that coming up, because it's not without any reason that we and all the other top teams are working in this direction for a while now, and then suddenly it should be banned. So let's see what happens.
McLaren have a new front wing here in Spain. It was due for the last race in Turkey, but it failed on their test rig and had to be beefed up. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton believes now is the time to rescue his championship challenge before Sebastian Vettel gets too far ahead.
Every year when you get to Barcelona, it's definitely a good place to really put in some good results, which you can kind of build upon. Maybe into Montreal is kind of where you really build the foundation, I think. And we're in a good place at the moment. Let's hope that this weekend we can get some good results.
Despite telling us in Turkey that he was missing the joy in racing, Michael Schumacher has now changed his mind and come over rather philosophical.
I should be honored that you guys still put so much interest in myself. And in a way, we both live from this. I mean, sports are emotion, and they go up and they go down in certain moments. And me, I'm more than certain that I will have the upper end by the end.
And there's plenty going on at Ferrari this weekend. Their new rear wing with this U-shaped cutout in the middle was found to break the rules, and the team have now had to revert to an old spec wing. Felipe Massa lost time in the Turkish Grand Prix in this pit stop after his clutch slipped. Ferrari have now stuck this gentle reminder to the drivers on their pit stop traffic lights. And Fernando Alonso has extended his contract to drive for the Scuderia Ferrari for another 5 years until the end of 2016.
There is no better place for a driver to race than Ferrari. For sure, in these next 6 years, we need to bring some success to Maranello, because it's our aim and our target.
Can you still win this year's championship?
I think so. I think time is enough, but we need the best car. I think for any reaction, any recovery in terms of points, you need to have the best car and you have to win races. And at the moment, we don't have the best car. So that's our main priority, to become the leaders in terms of competitiveness. And then the races will put you in your place at the end of the championship.
Isn't that fantastic? Typical of a Formula One driver. You re-sign with the team for a long time, then just gently remind them that they need to make a fast car to keep hold of you and keep you happy. So, Fernando Alonso till 2016 with the team behind me. That's an unusually long contract in Formula One, Eddie.
If it was me, I'd be concerned. If I was a team boss, I wouldn't want to do that, for a variety of reasons. I think, complacency can set in, and if you've got a contract that length of time, you've got to try and get yourself out of it if you need to get out of it. I think for me, it was an unusually long contract, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it.
So Fernando gets a team that he knows will always invest. He gets a team that pay their drivers a chunky salary. What do the team get out of signing up Fernando for that amount of time?
They get a truly world-class driver, someone who was able to win 2 world championships when Michael was at his peak, when he was driving for Ferrari. I don't think there's any risk of him becoming complacent. It's just a question of how long he retains the hunger that he carried through karting, into Formula One, through Renault, 1 year at McLaren and then now into Ferrari. But you've got to presume that he's not fearful about whether he would get a drive somewhere else in Formula One. He is saying, I am committed to Ferrari. And I don't doubt that he'll deliver right up until the end of that contract.
OK, well, he's hoping to impress the home fans this weekend. It was quite a funny quote, actually, from Fernando. You know the famous Nigel Mansell quote, the home fans are worth a second. They said that to Fernando, and he went, well, maybe a tenth. So obviously the home fans aren't that good for him, but they were certainly very good for Nigel. Now, let's just take a look at the car behind us. And you can see the rear wing of the Ferrari there. Well, there's been big news about the wing there that you heard from Ted this weekend, and that is that their new rear wing, and they're obviously fighting incredibly hard to try and beat Red Bull in the Formula One title battle at the moment. So they bought a new iteration of their rear wing. It's been ruled illegal by the FIA. Now, Eddie, just give us some kind of insight into the amount of time and the amount of money it would cost this team to develop a wing that they think is going to give them an advantage, to have it outlawed before it's even raced.
Well, there used to be an unwritten rule that a tenth of a second cost you £500,000. Now, I'm sure that's gone up in time, but, now it's so tight that I can imagine that the amount of effort in the wind tunnel, on the 7-post rigs, ever before the car ever turns up a wheel here in Spain, all of that cost, if you were to work it out, is probably in £1 million per half. I suppose 1/10 of a second is about £1 million.
So how do you get this far to then be told that you can't run the wing? Surely these teams should know that before they get to a race.
Well, there's so many potentially grey areas within the regulations. The car has to fit within a certain box, and that defines the height of the wing, the width of the wing, and what have you. But it's, if the people who wrote the rules were as creative as those that then exploit the rules, then they would be designers of Grand Prix cars and, getting that sort of excitement every week rather than defining a set of rules that then stand for a year or a couple of years. So there is another process where the teams will write to Charlie Whiting and ask some leading questions to sort of define, would something be acceptable? That then gets circulated to all the other teams, so it's transparent that what the question has been. It won't necessarily state who's been asking the question, and then a set of answers will come back. So either Ferrari have just gone ahead and made the rear wing, or they've asked some questions that haven't actually pinpointed that it would have been illegal.
Or they've asked the question in a certain way where it manages to slip through, and then they hope that no one spots it when it gets to the circuit, right?
Listen, I'm sure they've been up to all sorts of scams. I mean, every person is trying to be multi-clever doing all of these requests. And of course, you'll skirt around what you really want to ask in the hope that you might get the right answer. But these guys at running our sport now are far too clever for us guys, and I think it's very difficult to get something through like that.
Not like the good old days.
I'm not going to make any reference to the good old days.
I thought you might not. Let's move on then, and let's talk about what will be happening in just 7 weeks' time, because in 7 weeks we'll be standing in the pit lane at the British Grand Prix, but it might not be a pit lane that you recognise, because finally, down at Silverstone, they've got the scale and the grandeur to add to the status and the history.
The wide open spaces of an aerodrome don't make an ideal road circuit. But gangs of enthusiasts have spent days putting down hundreds of straw bales to make artificial corners.
But Formula One in 2011 demands so much more than straw bales and fast cars. Silverstone's latest development has moved it from a great circuit to one with world-class facilities, new garages and a completely new pit lane complex. A modern twist on an old classic.
Well, I'm staggered. The good news really is the track is still there. It's a wonderful track. But I think what they've done is fantastic. I mean, obviously, we had to bring this up, and there's no doubt now, not even Birdie could be disappointed,
I think it's spectacular to look at, and I think it puts Silverstone in a whole new bracket, even ahead of the rest of the world, because I don't think there's another pit and paddock complex that's that long.
It's an amazing opportunity going forward. We've got one of the finest, if not the finest, race circuits in the world, and we'll have the facilities to go with it. So I know there's other things to follow, like a hotel and permanent grandstands and everything else, but very exciting.
I think I'm really looking forward to seeing it packed with hundreds of thousands of motorsport fans for the British Grand Prix, but also for all the other events that are on at Silverstone.
turn one's going to be amazing now. You know, into their full speed, 24 Formula One cars at the Grand Prix here. And, you know, I think this is a nice place to be. I think people are going to dress up to come to Silverstone. You know, it's going to be in a big event, and bigger than it ever has been before. So we're going in the right direction. It's good to see that British motorsport is still the best in the world.
We'll all be dressing up on the 10th of July. You never know, someone might even give you a very special British Grand Prix shirt if you're very lucky indeed. The places that we're heading to now, Bahrain, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, they boast the most incredible facilities. How important was it for Silverstone, who we know had the history, to add the facilities to that?
I think they had to. They were running in the past. And yes, while nostalgia can be so romantic and gorgeous, they needed to up their game, and they certainly have.
Yeah, and it's not just about a nice building, it's also going to change the way the racing operates there, because there's a beautiful wide turn one now, which is all the cars attacking, 24 cars going straight down into that. What's the start of the British Grand Prix going to look like from now on, do you think?
Well, I think that what that will actually do is it's just recreate what we have on the run down to Cops Corner, because it is a very fast open corner, and that's exactly what we're going to have now off the line at Silverstone. But what it will do is concertina all the cars up at the tight right-hander, which I think is called Abbey. Is that what they call that one?
Used to be called Abbey, or Cops. Which one?
That new complex. So we might see a concertina effect there.
Yeah, and when you went down there, because you were at the launch, were you checking out the commentary boxes or the garages?
I didn't see either, actually. I was inside the facility where the launch was, and it's a huge facility. Mark Webber actually drove one of last year's Red Bull cars all the way down the pit lane, all the way inside the top of the pits complex, and parked the car. So you can have, you know, you could have live demonstrations there or anything above the pits.
It's fantastic. It's all about more than just motor racing down there at the moment, that's for sure. Now then, you can have a team owner who gets the perfect car. You can have a driver who knows how to drive to a win. But if you turn up to a Grand Prix such as this without your setup absolutely bang on, then you're going to struggle. Here's Martin.
We often hear the drivers talking about car setup. Let's explore what that means. Cornering speed is dictated by loading 4 small tyre contact patches and maximising the grip. The aerodynamics of the car work best when it's very close to the ground. That requires a stiff suspension. But the car also has to go over bumps and curbs, which needs compliance. So what tools are available to the engineers and the drivers to help set the car up? This is a torsion bar, or a spring if you like. 2 at the back of the car, they drop down inside there, and it controls the vertical stiffness of the car. This is an anti-roll bar. It's to control the lean of the chassis as the car is loaded through the corner and ties the 2 sides of the suspension together. A shock absorber through bump and rebound, it controls the rate of change as the car is moving around. The overall load on the tyres is controlled by the downforce. You can adjust that by changing elements of the rear wing, and the same at the front. By controlling the angle of this front wing flap, you can increase or reduce the downforce. Setup is a compromise between ride height and compliance, downforce and drag. You're always seeking the perfect setup for your car, and you never get there.
But you never, ever stop looking. Now, they talk about this circuit, David, as rewarding efficient downforce. Just explain to us what that means.
Well, all downforce is relatively inefficient, because what pushes the car into the ground creates drag, because you're changing the direction of the air and shoving it up skywards, and that creates a negative pressure below the wing. So, you know, Grand Prix cars are not very efficient in comparison to a road car, but then a road car doesn't generate the vast amounts of downforce that they do.
Right, so it's all about getting the balance just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, within any given year, any given set of regulations, you'll always go for the maximum downforce that you can physically generate from the car, and then worry about how you balance that.
Okay, well, Eddie, you've managed to find something in your loft that will impress us. People are obviously wondering what this is. It's not the same as mine. It's kind of a late 90s version of what I'm holding. Just explain what we've got here.
Well, you're absolutely right. Late 90s it is. And, you know, a lot of the words that Martin used were still in play then. We talk about diffuser, we talk about turning in, we talk about different rockers and suspension, we talk about going softer on the rear dampers. Setup is something that's been there for quite a long time. And yes, these are actually setups from the Jordan days, 12, 14 years ago. And what we found at that stage in the 7-post rig, that by lowering the rear ride height, we got better diffuser work, we got the braking better, and the car turned in better. you know, it's remarkable, but a lot of those things are still there, but just a little bit more complicated.
Okay, so this is the strategy package, I suppose you'd say, for your race in Monza back in 1999, and you've got another one behind it as well. Is that from the French Grand Prix, the other one?
Well, ironically, I just happened to pick these two, maybe because for a certain reason I picked them. I
can't think why. What happened in those two races, David? Monza 99?
A little-known team won those races.
Yeah, of course they did. It's essential, though, to getting it right at the weekend. Eddie obviously spent many hours typing things up before he got to the Grand Prix, preparing himself. What was it like in the early days of Grand Prix racing when you first started? How different to the kind of information that the likes of Alonso, Vettel and Webber get these days?
Well, it evolves because of the programs they have. Just the amount of information they can process is something that's obviously increased amazingly since that time. But the essence of what sets up a car, these are passive cars. That means they have mechanical springs and dampers and ride height, and you know the downforce, as I say, it'll change year on year depending on the regulations. But the essence of what makes a Grand Prix car balanced and what any particular driver wants is the same.
Well, he'd know more about the driving thing. In terms of absolutely what people must understand, that this is not guesswork. This has been studied and run through time after time. I remember last year we did a thing on McLaren going into the mission control. It's exactly the same under different names, obviously in different others, sir. But the same teams go through the same rigmarole. It's exhaustive. It's 24 hours a day, non-stop. These people put so much effort into getting the base, and it's only fine-tuning what they do here.
There you go. It's all about setup, and you can see the guys working away on the cars behind us, just fine-tuning, doing those last little things, making sure that the fine details are perfect before these cars head out onto the track for qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix in just about 20 minutes' time. But getting the setup is perfect, but then the next set that you have to manage to nail in Grand Prix at the moment is getting your strategy absolutely bang on. Take Sebastian Vettel, for example. Exactly the same car as Mark Webber, but he's managed to pick up 3 wins in Formula One so far because his strategy is absolutely spot on.
We saw 82 pit stops just like that at the last race in Turkey, a record for any dry race in Formula One. Because the tyres were only lasting about 10 to 12 laps, and what it meant was that the brains on the pit wall had to make up their race strategies as they went along.
Strategy is a bit more important this year. The driver has to think about that, but there's no magic a driver can do in this perspective.
That's a very resigned Jenson Button there.
Last race, I thought we were doing the right thing and looking after the tyres in the first stint, and 3 stopping we thought was the right way, but turned out not to be. And hurting your tyres in the first stint was actually a bonus because it meant that you put you straight on a 4-stop. And you luck into a good strategy, so yeah, it's a tough one.
Strategy, you need to have good pit stops, that's for sure. You know, because the thing is, when you do every lap, if you do every lap 1/10 faster than the other, and then, you know, for 20 laps you gain 2 seconds, and you get in the pit stop and you lose 10 seconds, it's a waste.
Well, if we are going to have more stops, what are the criteria in play? Ross, what are you looking for in the middle of the race?
Well, during a race, we're looking for the tyres dropping off. We have a forecast from what we've learned in practice, but of course the track changes, the conditions change. If you've got a multi-stop race, and the last race 4 stops, so 3 stops, 4 stops, you've also got to look after the tyres in qualifying and find a balance between qualifying position and what tyres you have for the race. And this is what kind of compounds the advantage that Red Bull have. They have a performance advantage at the moment, so they can take it easy on their tyres in qualifying. That gives them an even bigger advantage in the race.
Surely, you know, if you can put yourself in a position where you are in the lead, you can react, and you don't have to, you know, think so much about strategies.
Sebastian Vettel's won 3 out of the first 4 races because he's got the best car. But having the best car also means he doesn't have to take any risks with strategy, and that's really helped in this new Formula One.
So the racing very much starts from Saturday these days in Formula One. Let's just make our way out of the Red Bull garage, because right on cue they've decided to turn on the engine for Sebastian's car. It's sounding good, which will be music to the ears of Christian Horner. Christian, it took Sebastian 9 races in 2010 to get the same number of points he's already managed to pick up. With such unpredictable racing, have you just had your strategy absolutely perfect, or has there been an element of luck along the way?
Winning a Grand Prix, everything's got to come together. You've got to have the reliability, you've got to have the pace, you've got to have the strategy. And this year with the added elements of DRS, the KERS, and above all the Pirelli tyres, it's been a much bigger challenge and much busier on the pit wall, much busier for the guys back in the factory to support us and give us the right information. And you make your own luck. You have to make the right calls.
Christian, you've renewed Vettel's contract to 2014, and we've just heard about what's going on at Ferrari. Do you think what you did has influenced them to tie down Alonso till that late time?
I thought 2014 was already a long way away, but 2016 seems an awfully long way away. I guess you'll be getting your pension by then, but...
I've been getting it for quite some time now. Thanks for that mention anyway. But if we can stay to the subject, it seems too long from a team's point of view.
It's a long time from both drivers' point of view, but at the end of the day, Fernando's obviously very comfortable there. The team are comfortable with him. A contract is not worth the paper it's written on if the driver isn't happy, and there seems to be the right atmosphere there, and both parties are happy. Therefore, they've been prepared to commit each other that long.
Christian, the thing I'm curious to know is, what do the teams think about all these increased overtakes? We've always had a massive amount of passes going on because of DRS and all the other, KERS and all the other tools the teams have. Is that making it, from a strategic point of view, really exciting for all your operation rooms and on the pit wall, or is it making a bit of a nightmare?
A bit of both, really, because it's changed the dynamics completely. You get so used to, in previous years, overtaking being so difficult. Now you can overtake with the DRS, so your strategy, you build around that. Each race that Sebastian Vettel has won, he's had to make an overtake. Jenson Button in Melbourne, Felipe Massa in Malaysia, and Jenson again in Istanbul 2 weeks ago. But it's changed the dynamics, completely. And here's going to be really interesting because it's the longest run to the first turn, 500 meters or over 500 meters. So qualifying almost becomes slightly less important.
Which is probably good news for Mark Webber, who's been consistently out-qualified by his teammate now, race after race. Give us an insight into Mark's state of mind this weekend, because it was here last year where he won this race, he went to Monaco, he won that race, and he really took a firm grip on the title. Is he more positive because of his memories of this Grand Prix?
I think Mark enjoys his track. It's a track he's always gone well at, and he's come here, you can see he's confident. He's been very quick in every session, and I'm sure he's going to be giving it everything this afternoon. He's had a fifth, a fourth, a third, a second. Logically, there's only one place to go.
Yes, and there's no luck in Formula One. There's no logic either.
No, absolutely.
That's the problem. All right, well, good luck. Go well this weekend. Your cars have been looking very fast, first and second in the last session. Sebastian went out for one hot lap, and he pipped his teammate Christian. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, let's talk about someone else then, because we've mentioned Sebastian Vettel. It looks like we're going to have a period of German dominance at the start of this decade, just like we did 10 years ago. Michael Schumacher, without doubt the most decorated Formula One driver in history, and a man desperate to try and reclaim those glory days.
I am the greatest. Every sport has its heroes.
Ayrton Senna wins at Monaco for the 5th time.
Legends who become more than mere athletes, who transcend their selected discipline.
He has blown them all away. That was phenomenal.
Icons of their generation.
The Silverstone, and another memorable victory for England.
Their greatness can never be questioned.
Great Britain gets the gold
medal! Great, what a British hero!
Comparisons between eras are surely futile. Who's the fastest, the strongest, the most skillful? We'll never truly know. We shouldn't know. Only those with supreme ability can compete across generations.
First win ever for Michael Schumacher. Win the World Championship for the 3rd time. Michael Schumacher is world champion.
Our 7-time world champion is doing just that. You have to ask yourself, why? Why tarnish a legacy? What left is there to prove?
I decided to come back because I really wanted to see how it is to be 2 years out and then come back and win. Thank God I could win another championship then. But the decision for me to retire for good, I realized that the new generation is going to be quicker than me. But therefore I had a clear cut and said, now I'm going to retire.
Now the people start thinking, oh, can't he really do it?
is he maybe too old? Before they just said, okay, the car is not quick enough, but now they have evidence in person of Nico Rosberg.
He should be able from now on to be as quick as Nico or quicker. Then his future is secured. If he can't do that, then he will decide himself that he has reached his limits of his age and his performance, therefore he might stop.
What saddens me is that when we talk about Michael now, we talk about the mistakes he's making. And that's a sad thing. And then people are referring back to the incidents he had, say with Damon Hill in 94, Jacques Villeneuve in 97. And really we should be remembering him for the 91 wins, the 7 World Championships. But all we're talking about is the negative side. I find it very sad.
He has struggled in wheel-to-wheel combat since his comeback, hasn't he?
It's sad to see a legend in decline. Michael Schumacher may never win another race. Even so, that cannot diminish the scale of his success. True sporting greats are ultimately remembered for their moments of glory. Michael Schumacher will always be the 7 times world champion, the most decorated driver our sport has ever seen.
And in less than 15 minutes, Michael Schumacher will be making his way out for yet another qualifying session in Formula One. As you can see, with less than a quarter of an hour to go until the session, we have to make our way out of the pit lane and into this pretty impressive paddock here in Spain. Guys, who in many ways are we to question how long Michael Schumacher should drive for? If it makes him happy, why not continue in Formula One until he's 60, 75? But I think the thing after the Turkish Grand Prix was, for the first time, David, we kind of got an insight into the fact that perhaps he isn't even enjoying it.
Well, he certainly didn't enjoy that Grand Prix weekend, but I think that, as Niki Lauda said there, it is for him to decide. I doubt very much that Mercedes would publicly say that they're going to retire Michael Schumacher and you know, all of the great history that he has in Formula One. But it is a fact that a sportsman's career will come to an end, and it's just a question of whether it's a 10-year career, a 15-year career. You know, how many sports where you can have a 20-year career?
You said, Eddie, there that it's sad to see a legend in decline. Is it not exciting, though, to see that someone in their 40s thinks they can mix it with these lads who were born in the 90s?
Yeah, but you know, we're talking about a professional sport here, and sometimes people have to move over, A, to allow other people to come in, but B, because they're not quick enough. In this particular case, I think it's sad. I think it's sad for 2 reasons. I've just got these analogies. One, what's happened to his overtaking and his manoeuvre? He just doesn't seem to have the guile that he had before in traffic. That's number one. And the other question I would like to ask Mercedes, if Michael Schumacher was not Michael Schumacher and he was another driver, a rookie that had just come in, would his seat be safe? I doubt it.
No. Okay, well, David, having walked you all the way down here, you're going to have to turn around and go all the way back, because I think you need to head to the commentary box right now, don't you?
Yep. Thank you for that.
We'll miss you, David.
Thank you.
We'll see you very shortly. Thanks a lot, David. Just another quick mention about Michael Schumacher as Lewis Hamilton. Good luck today, Lewis. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good.
Good lad. He's, hey, Nick, nice to see you as well. There's Lewis along with his brother Nick, and Nick actually is a motor racer in his own right now. He's racing in the Clio Cup back in the UK, so you can head along and watch him there at Alton Park in a couple of weeks. Let's just talk about Michael one last time, though. You know, we see a young man like Lewis Hamilton strutting out of here, full of confidence. He's picked up a win so far this year. Has Michael Schumacher now got the ability and the mental speed to turn around his form and pick up another win, do you think, this year?
He's unlucky in certain ways because he's come back into a situation where there are 3 absolutely outstanding drivers, and there's one of them just gone by, Alonso, another, then Vettel, and then you can go on to Jensen and many, many others. Do I really believe that Michael Schumacher can pass all those? Can he be quicker than them? My guess is he can't. And we can blame the car as much as we like. I think that car is probably quite good. We see what Nico Rosberg is doing. But the litmus test, which we talked about earlier, litmus tests, he cannot beat his teammate. His teammate, Rosberg, is beating him hands down.
Sure, what a story though. I would love to see Michael Schumacher pick up another win in Formula One. We'll have to wait and see whether that happens. One thing we know is for certain is that in just about 10 minutes time it is time for the first part of qualifying. 7 cars will be knocked out and eliminated first of all, and Lotus's Heikki Kovalainen will hope the upgrades they've brought to this Grand Prix means that they won't fall at the first hurdle.
Stopped us here down at turn 1. Tell us about the challenge of this corner.
Yeah, obviously it's a long run down the straight, so obviously top speed is relatively high. It's actually not as tight corner as it looks. It will be a 3rd gear corner, rather than even a second gear. And in qualifying, you can carry a lot of speed into the corner when the car is very light.
It's one of the longest start-finish straights from the actual grid itself. Obviously with DRS as well, apparently this is going to be the longest activation point.
Yeah.
The previous circuits have had about 600 metres. Does that mean there'll be a lot more action into this corner?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's a lot more run down to the first corner comparing to many other circuits. And certainly the DRS, the curves, is very, very beneficial. And then on the races, you know, when you're behind the other car and you get the DRS activated, then you know, you have a potentially a good place to overtake. Normally we never see any overtaking here, so this is a true test for the new system, I think.
Here we are, right in the heart of turn 3. This in qualifying will be absolutely flat.
It's a pretty spectacular corner, and if you just nail the line,
Incredibly long, isn't it?
Yeah, it is long, and you just got to pick up the right line. You know, at right point, you just got to let go to the left.
Right, slow down a bit. You're walking too fast for me. I had to shift down a gear there when we were coming up the hill. Turn 9. Now, not really a corner that maybe people would particularly talk about. They tend to talk about turn 3, but you, unfortunately, had an incident here in the McLaren. So this is a very high-speed corner. You know, it's saying here apex speed of 160 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's another corner that in qualifying the top cars could be almost taking it flat out. And I'd say this is much more challenging actually than turn 3. Turn 3 is wider, not as tight, and it's sort of constantly going up the hill. But this is actually going up the hill and then almost dropping down at the apex. So you know, you're almost going over a brow.
And you've got no idea of where the exit is. So that's the big challenge. But it's a much shorter corner than turn 3.
It's
so
much
physically
shorter.
It's not as tough.
No, it's physically, but even turn 3 is not physically that tough.
Not even on the neck?
A little bit, but you know, we've trained very, very hardcore, so we are fine. But this is difficult. And you can feel the tailwind now, can you?
Yeah, that's
like
right.
a really heavy tailwind.
There you go, we've got a flag here showing just how windy it is.
So and tailwind affects a lot for the car. So just on the top of the brow, heavy gust of wind, and you just on the edge, you know, it could cause a snap. And if you have a snap in these kind of speeds, you're screwed. You probably end up there, somewhere where I was.
Right, Heikki, you've brought us here to the penultimate corner. Oh, so actually 14 and 15, it's 2 corners sort of linked together. It's the slowest corner on the track. I think you're doing about 60 miles an hour through here. Actually, maybe if you stand up there, we can have this conversation eye to eye.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I mean, it's better to be on this height than that height in Formula 1 car, so...
That's true. What can we expect for this weekend? What would be a good result for Team Lotus?
I think we definitely must see a relative gain to the car in front of us in qualifying. So rather than it being a 1 second or whatever, 7/10, it needs to be less than that. And ideally, if we can nail it, if we can get everything working as we think it potentially can work, we should be qualifying in Q2.
Heikki Kovalainen taken to the track for qualifying very shortly, but will Nick Heidfeld? Well, this was his car this morning in the final free practice session. He was making his way round on a hot lap. He pulled over and he set on fire rather badly. The question is the car rebuilt? Is it ready to qualify? Ted's with Eric Boulier.
Well, Eric, give us the latest on Nick. Is he going to make it for qualifying?
We hope so. We actually, the guys are pushing very hard to rebuild his car. We problem with the fire, you know, always you have some uncertainty about some damage on the loom or stuff like this. So we have to be safe. It's qualifying, and after that is park fermé, so they're changing as much as possible. So we will see. I think it will be tough.
And it definitely wasn't oil or fuel that spilt and caused the fire?
No, not at all. It was just exhaust crack problems and that catch-up fire everywhere.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Well, that was a mighty big fire for that reason, Eddie.
I'm sorry, Eric. I don't buy it. I think it's either it has to be oil or it has to be hydraulic fluid. You can't get that kind of fire just from an exhaust fire. Sorry.
Okay, we'll wait and see what happens there. Very quickly, Ted is with Martin Whitmarsh of McLaren.
Well, Martin, it's going to be tricky, isn't it? Q1. Will you have to run a soft tyre in that session?
I think, talking amongst a lot of the top teams yesterday, I think probably other than Red Bull, everyone feels that it's a bit tight. We'll see. I think if you can hold on to that one set of options, then it's advantageous. But you can easily be too clever and get it horribly wrong in Q1. So we'll try not to do that. But we'll see how confident we feel when the session starts.
Okay, thanks very much.
It's all about being clever without being too clever. But can this man impress the home crowd? Because it's time for qualifying for the 2011 Spanish Grand Prix.